Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad that you joined us today. And joining me today is Marc Cameron and Dr. Alice Benton. And you know, I'm so grateful for our co-hosts and the wisdom that they bring to the show. Today, we're going to hear from you, Alice. What do you have for our listeners today?
Well, I was asked recently, how should we decide when to address our children's shortcomings? How do we pick our battles? And are there things that we should just let go, turn a blind eye to? So I really had to put some thought to the question. And first and foremost, we parents had better be doing our own cleanup work because our children sniff out hypocrisy so quickly. So we have a better footing if we're open that we're also imperfect and we're working on things, and that we share that journey with our kids paves a smoother path to be able to address their shortcomings. And I think generally, I want to address as few shortcomings as I possibly can because we parents already have to correct so much and say no so frequently. So the less I can do, the better. How can I spread that responsibility out? So here's how I decide. If it's a moral or ethical issue, I have to address it, even if it's small. My children have fallen into saying, oh my God, and not in a prayerful way. And for me, that's a moral issue. And so it's small, but it's important. And so I address that with them. If it's a legal issue, I got to address it. And if their shortcoming is spilling over onto me or to others around us, and it's becoming burdensome for me, I get drained easily. And so I need to address that so that I can keep protecting my energy and loving them well. But these are the things I do not address. I've got to think about whether or not I'm exasperating my children because correcting can so easily turn into nagging, and God warns us away from that. Be careful. Do not exasperate your children. Can I allow others to address it? If that's a coach's issue, I want to keep my mouth shut then. Let the coach do it. Let the teacher address it if at all possible. And then, is it something that's not moral or ethical? It's just bothersome to me, but it's not really meaningful. For instance, my child's fashion, if it's not a moral issue, I may not like it, but I don't have to say anything about that. I may not like their haircut, but I don't have to address that one. I got to pick my battles so that the things that I do address, I want to try to make sure my children will be more open listeners to me about.
Well, you know, that goes right along with Jim's book. Even I know you're talking about younger ages, but as you train them up and then you release them into the world, it also is that same conversation, right, Alice? It's like, pick your battles. Like, how are you going to stay in relationship with them? And I think that is the challenge all the time. The other thing I read somewhere, I don't remember who said this, but they said, when your children see you, do they see the delight in your eyes when they encounter you? Or do they see that reprimand like you're talking about, Alice? It really is pick your battles. You are training them, but there is a lot of love that has to go into that.
Right. So you need to have that balance. You need to have the times that you're building them up as well as the times that you're doing correcting, because rules without relationship lead to rebellion. And I love what you said though there, Alice. It's about modeling. Are we doing our own work? More, there's a popular saying, more is caught than taught. Yes. But it's a popular saying because it's absolutely true. And another thing I think I would add in here too is, maybe there are things to address, but sometimes you don't have to give the ticket in the moment. You can wait until the end of the day and say, hey, can we sit down and chat? Here are some things that I've noticed. And so you kind of save them up, not to whack them over the head, but just to kind of reduce the frequency. And again, model that with them. Hey, what are some things that you've noticed in me that you don't like that I might be able to fix?
Yep.
That'll go a long way.
Yeah, it's so powerful. I think of Milan and Kay Yurkovich's book, How We Love Our Kids. That can be a great primer for what we're talking about here. It's not rules but it is relationship. And it's understanding how powerful those connections are. Thanks, Alice, for your wisdom. We're going to take calls right after this break. If you're on the line, hold on. We'll be right with you. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for your life and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I was just thinking about what Alice was talking about, and it's convicting. My kids are adults, and I think back. So if you're a young parent, just know that we get that you're doing the best that you can, but I want to help you too. So I love what you're saying, Allison, and I hope that it encourages somebody today. We're going to go to the calls, and we're going to talk with Leslie, who's calling us from Sale, Arizona, listens on Sirius XM. Hello, Leslie. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Hi. So my question or my situation is that I'm in a marriage of 38 years, and I have 8 children. I have 17 grandchildren out of that marriage.
That's awesome.
So, unfortunately, since my second year into this marriage, my husband has been unfaithful. And as a matter of fact, after 25 affairs, I lost count. And it's just like constant forgiving. So, thank God, he taught me forgiveness, It's like, I just feel like it's just been taken for granted this whole time. But, it's like that is something that we are taught, and so I love my husband. I really do. And I know there's nobody else that would have the compassion and the love that I have for him. However, like he gets lost in the lusts of the world, it's like, and of course everybody, these people out there, they have sweet words, anything to entice you and everything.
So Leslie, how can we best help you today?
So I just wanted to know, okay, so where do I go from here? Because right now it's like I can say that I reared all my kids. My youngest is 18 now, and I'm like, what can I do? At this point.
Did you just find out about another? Did you just find out about another affair, Leslie?
Well, this affair's been it's going on 10 years. He's been with another lady prior to this for 30 years. So it's like, and there's just many. And this one, he has a new child with this lady that he's just in total denial. He can never come forward and confess anything. And I'm just like, just make it easy for me. It's like, just say, I'm going to work. I'm going to have lunch with her. I'm going to, it's like, help me.
Leslie.
Help me help you. Yeah.
Leslie, my heart breaks for you that you are in such a relationship like this. And just the way that you speak about this in just such a calm way. I used the term on the last show about gently confronting it, and I want to gently confront you that I think you're minimizing the impact of this on you. I know that you're saying that it's hurtful and that you love your husband, but he doesn't demonstrate love for you at all. He's not committed to you. He's not faithful to you. He's been unfaithful from what you said from the second year of marriage. and he's had 25 plus affairs. I mean, how many more affairs are you willing to put up with?
Well, none. It's like, and I was hoping, to grow old with my husband, and just that's all. That's been my hope, and unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
Sister,
so at this point,
Leslie, sister, I think you are trapped in a cycle of chronic, maybe obsessive forgiveness. And when forgiveness is on its own, without consequences and without safety and expectations and protection, you are being re-abused every time he engages, and he keeps engaging with his affair partners. I want to siphon off some of my anger that's bubbling in me and pass it over to you. I want you to have a holy anger, a turning the tables over in the temple kind of anger, because you have mercy, you have forgiveness, girl, you have boatloads of it. But I want anger for you so that you get protection from this man trampling your heart over and over again. And I wonder how it affects you to hear my anger. What's your reaction? Do you want to run from it? Do you get a little bit angry with me? What happens in your heart? You want to run from it?
Yes.
So we gotta look back at something, because you saw some scary anger as a little girl that taught you anger is the wrong thing to feel. What happened as a kid? What kind of anger did you face as a child?
Well, for one, I was raised by my grandmother, and I never had my mom and dad.
Oh.
So I've always wanted that for my children.
Mm.
So, and I always wanted them to always, I mean, now it's a norm, it's like you go to a graduation, like kids are announced, it's like daughter of somebody, so-and-so, and then they're named separately, and it's no longer Mr. and Mrs. whoever, it's like.
So you've laid down your life and your heart over and over again so that your children would have a 2-parent home, and that is a noble sacrifice, Leslie, that you have lived out for all these years.
Yes, I did, and I want to now. It's like my grandchildren. It's like I want my grandchildren to rise up and call me blessed. Like that's my grandma.
Well, and Leslie, they likely will, apart from this situation. Here's what I want for you. This is such a deeply entrenched trauma that you've experienced for this whole 38 years of marriage and raising children and now grandchildren. And it's not as easy as, okay, we're just going to stop. He's got another family that he has. His long affairs are like other wives. It's not the same as, when we help women with one-night stands or repeated affairs. There's so much trauma that comes into that. This is what I would love for you to do. I would love for you to join us at the Restore Intensive in February in Southern California. It's a weekend that could begin your healing and begin to kind of answer some of the questions that are keeping you in this cycle of forgiveness. Like Alice was talking about, forgiveness is for us. It's not for the other person. It's for us to not have that resentment and that bitterness. But what has happened is your forgiveness is so that your marriage doesn't fall apart. Like, he hasn't changed anything. Nothing has changed for him. And what has happened is your heart has become broken over and over again. This is not your fault, Leslie. I think it was pretty insightful when you could make the connection that you were raised by your grandmother and your goal was that you would have an intact family. And the grief that has come, because that's not, yes, you're together, but, it's not inside of his heart. But I think that would be the next step for you that could get you started on this healing journey that's going to take a while.
And we want you to start slow, because I would guess that confronting your husband in bigger ways than you already have done, you think you'll lose the relationship. He'll run if you take too hard of a stance. And so what we can do in Restore, what we can do for you in counseling is to build your strength up little by little and to strategize how to start taking stronger stances on smaller things so that you can then build up that courage and ability to better safeguard your marriage. And Leslie, I want to give you hope that when we see women do this, when they get assertive and strong, it often actually generates a respect in their husband who did not respect his wife for all those years when she was so forgiving. It can be a surprising response. Now, there is a risk to boundaries. There always is, because sometimes relationships are lost when you draw the line in the sand. But you don't have to do that tomorrow. But let us help start building the muscle so you can really figure out, what am I willing to put up with?
Yeah,
and Leslie, I just also want to give you a little bit of clarification too around forgiveness. Forgiveness is a wonderful thing, but forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean that you stay in relationship with somebody. And I think you've actually used forgiveness as your own self-protective strategy against fear of abandonment. If I can forgive you, then you'll stay and you won't leave me. But he's left you multiple times over and over again, and you don't even know everything. You know, you mentioned earlier on that he's still gaslighting you. Why doesn't he just come clean? Why doesn't he just tell you? If he told you, really, he may have more children that you don't even know about. And so I'm going to say something that might be a little bit shocking to you. I think that you need to leave. I think that you need to draw that line in the sand and say, until you can come clean and tell me everything, you need to move out.
And while you're thinking you're protecting your marriage for the sake of your children and grandchildren, infidelity is a poison that seeps down to the next generation. When it's tolerated and it's not confronted, the children of that infidelity, your children, they are more likely to either be unfaithful or to pick spouses who will be unfaithful, and to allow that to happen. And so you think you're protecting your children. In a sense you are, but in another sense you're allowing them to be affected whether or not you think they know about it.
Because it's what we started the show about. It's about modeling. You're either modeling put up with this, or your husband is modeling it's okay to do this. And that's where Alice is saying.
And we cover all of this at Restore, Leslie, so that you can have some insight, and you'll have a group of women who can carry this burden with you that have experienced that, and great counseling. This isn't the first time we've heard this problem, and unfortunately it won't be the last one. I'm going to send you a copy of Dr. Sherry Keffer's book, Intimate Deception, Healing the Wounds of Sexual Betrayal, which I think will help you get a little bit of a start on what the healing process looks for you. And today's the last day for an early bird rate for Restore. So if you are hearing Leslie's call and you're thinking, you know what, that is my story as well, we invite you to join us at Restore. It's so amazing to hear the women who say, I didn't realize that I was not the only one. And which is shocking, but it's true. We're so sorry, Leslie, that you're going through this, but we want to get you connected with a counselor. Hope that you'll see us at Restore. Thank you so much for calling. We're going to go to our next call. We're going to talk with Kathy, who's calling us from Frederick, Maryland, listens on WAVA. Thanks for calling, Kathy.
Yes, hi.
And your dog?
Yes, okay. Well, let me give you just a little bit of background information. I have tinnitus really bad. I just got it a couple months ago, and I have insomnia. I'm not sleeping more than 3 hours a night, 4 hours, even with Ambien, using a sleeping pill. Anyway, it was suggested at an audiologist appointment that I went to recently that I engage in cognitive behavior therapy with a specialist. I guess it's called CBTI, that I guess focuses on insomnia. So I was just calling to see what you all think about CBT as far as, Christians are concerned.
Well, I love that question, Kathy, and I love that your audiologist was insightful enough to know that sometimes our physical ailments can be helped through psychological interventions. Alice, why don't you just talk a little bit, because we're going to come up against a break here, Kathy, in just a second. But Alice, just describe what CBTI or CBT is so that the listeners will know what we're talking about.
Well, when we deal with a chronic illness like you are, Kathy, there's an effect on the mental health where it's so likely to have increased depression and anxiety, and the stress affects both sides of things. So it becomes a vicious cycle. of your mood being negatively impacted by what you're dealing with. And then when we have high anxiety and high depression, physical symptoms tend to be worse. There can also be surprising psychological roots to the physical symptoms that you're experiencing. And so cognitive behavioral therapy helps you to identify the ways that you think about yourself and the symptoms you experience, which most of us get into negative loops and we get stuck in that, and it makes everything worse. Cognitive behavioral therapy helps us to challenge and to replace those with more adaptive ways of thinking and behaving to better care for your body with all the stress that you're under.
That's so true. Well, Kathy, hold on. You can keep walking the dog, but we're going to come back after this break and follow up. We'll hear from Marc. And just, the possibilities of how CBTI could help in this situation. It's good to understand what's out there as far as treatment options and the types of therapy that's available, because there's not one size fits all. And, the truth is there's not one size fits all in clothing, therapy, food choices, cars, whatever. We'll be right back after this.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hid with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I would up getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are talking with Kathy as she's walking the dog, and talking about how does physical issue and psychological help connect. And I said this before, I love that your audiologist thought enough that, maybe some counseling. And Alice, even your insight about how physical things impact us psychologically, emotionally. And the power of cognitive behavioral therapy in all of its forms is literally, what are you telling yourself? What are you thinking about when you're thinking? Alice?
You asked about this for a Christian in particular, and I like that you're discerning of what forms of therapy are biblically sound. So I want to give you Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And that's what good CBT does. It helps to renew your mind and to take us all out of our deceptive ways of thinking and root us in, hopefully, good biblical truth about how we should think about ourselves and how we should care for our body and our mind.
Marc, what would you offer?
Yeah, and just kind of from that lens too about, does this align with biblical values? Yeah, I think CBT shines a light on how we work as human beings. I don't think it's the complete picture of how we work, but it's built upon the cognitive triangle. of emotions, thoughts, and feelings, or emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, all being like one point of the triangle. And the theory behind it is that each of those points can impact the other. If you change your behavior, you can change the way that you feel about it. You can change your thoughts. If you change your thoughts, you can change how you feel, and you can change your behavior. So it's part of how we work, and lots of people find it effective for them, especially people who have high anxiety. It can give you great tools to learn how to capture thoughts and then renew your mind, or challenge yourself to behavioral experiments to prove to yourself that you're not in fear.
So Kathy, how does that strike you?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Then I'll just keep my appointment because I'm going tomorrow. Yeah, good. Because I didn't want to get into something like, like some Middle Eastern kind of, like chanting or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like
well, no, we don't chant in cognitive behavioral.
Yeah, I just didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I just hope that it's successful, and then But I think that with me, the reason why I'm not sleeping though is because of the ringing. So there is a reason. It's not. I mean, yes, it is a vicious cycle, and I'm on sleeping pills that I'm trying to get off of, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but the ringing is causing it. So I know that there is a reason for
right.
Right.
And Kathy, tinnitus affects so many Americans, and people think that it's an ear problem, but it's actually a brain problem, which your audiologist probably told you about that.
Yeah.
And so what happens a lot of times, people will dismiss the physical ringing in the ears, thinking that it'll just go away, and then it impacts other ways. And our hearing is so important, whether it's that internal noise that you're hearing, which can be distressful, and trying to find that relief. Alice, you look like you're ready to say something again.
Well, Kathy, as you're about to go to your first therapy session tomorrow, I hope you really give it a chance. Give it a couple of sessions to see if you can develop relationship with the clinician. Because as we wonder, what form of therapy is best for me? It's actually the relationship with the therapist that determines how effective the therapy will be. So also be prepared to shop around. If after a few sessions you find, this is not quite the right fit, then we have a network of counselors who are both Christian and know cognitive behavioral therapy and other modalities that can serve you with what you're going through.
Well, we're so glad that you called, Kathy, and we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back, which can help you with some of the challenges that you may be facing. Insomnia can also be impactful in our life. Obviously, if you have a bad night's sleep, upon a bad night's sleep, you're going to be cranky and struggling and all of those things. And so self-care is really important at this time. And we'll be praying, Kathy, that you have what you just said, though, Alice, because so many people think you go into therapy and it's that one and done. And it's never that, because a lot of times you feel better because you may have expressed to the counselor all of what's going on inside of you. So it's kind of like throwing up. And, sometimes when you throw up, you feel better, but but if you keep eating the same junk, it's going to make you sick again. So I always tell people, give it a few, 3 visits, and be open with your therapist. If it's not working for you, or if you're feeling like they're not hearing you, it is so impactful for you to say, listen, I don't know what you're supposed to be doing here, but this isn't working for me. Help me understand what you're talking about.
Yes.
And if you as a therapist haven't heard that, you better be asking somebody, is this helping? Because that happens so many times. People will walk away from therapy and they'll be like, that didn't work and I'm not going back. And we just want people to find that relief.
Well,
Marc,
let me add this. Therapy is a collaboration. So you're working together with your therapist. That's what Alice was saying here about we call it the therapeutic alliance. How connected are we to the client here? And so at all times, if you don't know where your therapist is taking you or what's the intervention for, you should be able to say to your therapist, hey, can you explain to me, why are we doing this? And they should be able to have a solid answer. You should also be able to say, can we focus on this and not that? And your therapist be able to adjust to that if they think that that's appropriate.
It's so true. And, as therapists, we are always trying to educate the client for themselves, because we know that you're probably not going to be in therapy the rest of your life, consistently. But if you have a good relationship with a therapist, in times where you need, you go back, you do the work, You know, it is a relationship. And it can make all the difference. I know I've heard from so many people that, you know, if it weren't for their therapist, who knows where they would be. Of course, we always say, if it weren't for the Lord, where would we be? And sometimes he works through counselors. We'll be back.
My husband was involved with pornography addiction. He was unfaithful. I called the wedding off. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Workshop is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
My husband is a recovering sex addict.
There were strip clubs, other ladies.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Workshop will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Workshop is coming to Orange County, California, February 24th through the 26th. To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or online at newlife.com.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with a New Life Moment. Finding a way to help others is an expression of faith. It shows that we believe in the sovereignty of God. We don't have to wait until the pain is gone in our life because we know God can use it for good. Finding a way to help others requires that you ask 2 questions. What is God doing? And how can I get into the flow of this activity? When we ask these questions, ideas will come. And once we begin doing this, the why is this happening question, which once seemed so important, it becomes irrelevant. The best answer to why is always what. When we stop asking, why has God allowed this, and begin asking, what does He want me to do with it, we're ready for God to start His work in us. Well, are you ready? Hey, visit newlife.com. I'm Steve Arterburn, and thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
That's so powerful. And I think about, those questions. What is God doing, and how can I join God in what He's doing? And I think about our Club New Life family who have joined in on what God is doing through New Life and all the ways that we are helping people. Thank you, Club New Lifers. But, if you want to be part of what God is doing, maybe that's one way. If you want to join Club New Life, you can go to newlife.com or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE, and we'll get you connected there. I just so appreciate the timeless wisdom of Steve and hearing him speak into the challenges that we have. We're going to go back to the calls. We're going to talk with David, who's calling us from New York, New York. It's his first time calling. We're so glad that
David, how can we help you?
Hello there.
Did we lose?
Thanks for
there you are.
My call.
We're glad to hear from you.
Yes. So recently, my son came out as one of those LGBTs, and I've been hearing his boyfriend downstairs, and it gets pretty intense, and I'm not very comfortable with that, and I was wondering what would the Lord do or want me to do?
Well, it's a good question, David. How old is your son?
David?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you.
Oh, how old is your son?
Oh, he's 18.
Okay.
And David, when you say that you can hear his boyfriend downstairs, can you explain a little bit more what you're getting at? What can you hear?
Well, I don't think it's very appropriate to say on the radio. On the radio.
So you think that they're having sexual encounters in your house, and you're very concerned about it and wonder how to address that?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, David.
Because, Tyrone is pretty loud.
Well, the challenge here, David, too, is what is the agreement that you have with your son? At 18, a lot of times parents are having the conversation about what's next. Like, are you moving out? Do you go to school? What are your responsibilities? And I know 18 isn't a magic number for adulthood, but it's considered generally. There are conversations that are having, that parents are having. What is the arrangement for you and your son?
Well, as you know, New York is like insanely expensive. So, I mean, like I don't like that he's gay but like I don't want him to get by.
Okay. Well, so David, obviously, before we were saying we'll go on beyond that, but Alice and Marc, let's talk about just the challenges of having those, just differences of opinion with adult children. I think that there are ways that we can make agreements where, if you, and how are we going to get connected as.
So I'll take us back to actually looking at what we started at the beginning of the show, because I think it applies for situations like David's, where we have to have standards for our household and what we are and are not willing to allow to have happen in our households. But those rules have to be formed in the depth of love and relationship. And when we're particularly stirred by the choices that our children are making, it can be easy to fall into addressing our children with a great deal of anger or upset, or even completely avoiding because we don't know what to do. I've talked with a number of families recently, actually, who are dealing with this. How much physical affection is even allowed in the home? And do we feel like we parents have a right to say anything about it when we disagree with what our children are doing?
Yeah, I think as your kids are approaching 18, I think it's good to have a conversation with them about how, what they are then legally allowed to do in terms of making their own decisions. I mean, 18, it's a legal age that somebody becomes an adult, but it's really kind of a minimum age that the law says a person should be able to make certain decisions. Now, we know that most 18-year-olds, as David was getting to, it's very expensive to live in the world right now. They can't survive financially without the support of their parents. And so we get to have rules for our own households. And while they may be able to make certain decisions that we don't have control over, we can talk about what we allow in our households and talk about what rules that they agree to follow.
And we always say to start with relationship, to start with, son, I love you. I care about you. I'm concerned because you're taking a path that that I don't agree with. And I'm going to let you know what I allow in my home. I'm not going to allow sexual activity in our home for anybody who's not married. And I haven't addressed this before. I think it's been going on and I haven't said anything. So I think I need to apologize because I've had these thoughts, but I haven't spoken them and I didn't know how to speak them. But I am going to set that standard now. So son, I need to know if you're willing to abide by that rule within this household. And if you're not, I'll tell you what I will be doing. I will come knock on the door if I think it's happening. I will come and interfere because I'm not going to allow that in my home. I'll be kind, but I'm going to be firm. So I need to know if you understand what I'm saying, and you can feel free to tell me your thoughts about it. But as for me and my household, we're going to serve the Lord. This is the decision we're deciding to make.
Well, and I think some people get stuck too because they allow certain behaviors to go on for a while, and then they can get stuck in this thinking of, well, I've allowed it, so I can't go back. But we were talking before about the power of a do-over. You are allowed to say to somebody, hey, I made a mistake. I have allowed this, and upon thinking about it, I've decided that that I got it wrong. And this is what the
Yeah.
new standard is going to be. And that's your prerogative as a parent. That's your prerogative of an owner of a house.
Right. And regardless of how expensive it is to live anywhere, if that's your choice, you're free to pay the rent wherever you can go. And it's hard. It's a difficult decision. Well, David, we're going to send you a copy of Dr. Jim Burns' Doing Life with Your Adult Children, Keeping the Welcome Mat Out and Your Mouth Shut. Although in this case, it might be the opposite way. You might have to say, you're not welcome to live your life that way here if that's going to be a conflict for both of you. But more conversation can be so helpful, and we want to help you do that. So we're glad you called. We're going to go back to the calls, and we're going to talk with Lori, who's calling us from Fresno and listens online. Hi, Lori. How can we help you today?
Well, you can help me figure out what God would want me to do with my son and daughter-in-law who have accused my husband of sexually abusing my 2-year-old granddaughter. And the backstory is they have not allowed anyone to babysit the children except me because my daughter-in-law has a history of being abused and nobody believed her. And the abuse that was described by the mouth of a 2-year-old was highly anatomically graphic. Like, most 2-year-olds do not know the terminology anus and vagina.
So,
Lori, were there charges made against your husband, or is it just a conversation with the family right now?
It's a conversation that's been happening with the family for a year, and no charges were made. We went straight to the church because we are leaders in the church, and we had to get the regional leadership involved. And based on the allegations and everything, they decided there was no action to take. My husband was willing to do a lie detector test, but that doesn't meet the only acceptable thing to my children is that they have no contact with my husband, that I don't mention his name, that he's not allowed to drive down their street.
Gosh, Lori, that's hard. That's very difficult. Well, you can hear the music, Lori, and we're going to talk with you after this break. It's heartbreaking because it sounds like it's been there's been a distance for over a year where you're having to balance this. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. But yet you get to babysit. You get to be with the child.
I do not get to babysit.
Okay.
I initially refused to spend time with the children alone because I was afraid I would be accused.
Okay. We'll be back right after this break, and we'll address this heartbreaking situation.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career or possibly strengthening your relationships or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps toward your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. These stories, like Lori's question, are so heartbreaking. And at the same time, we understand that there is history with your daughter-in-law that it happens. We know that the pain can start to trigger in these next generations, but I think we can help you get forward. Alice, you go ahead and start.
Well, Lori, I've been involved in cases where there were both false accusations made and maybe innocently in that they suspected and they were just wrong that it was taking place. But I know that there can be false accusations of sexual abuse. But then certainly on the other hand, if accusations are made and they're not taken seriously and it's true, the damage is just extensive. So the fact that your husband was willing to take a polygraph, that's helpful and hopeful. What else has he done? And what kind of professionals have been involved over this last year? In addition to the church, we understand you took those steps. Who else has gotten involved?
With the children and my son and his wife, I don't know. We had a face-to-face meeting when this first came out, and I was afraid to bring it up to my husband because it was just so shocking. So I brought it up to the pastor, and we had a sit-down meeting. Then we met with the parents, and that did not go well. My husband said, I looked him straight in the face and said, I'm sorry you think this happened, but I absolutely never touched your child, and I wouldn't. He doesn't even know where the diapers are.
And have there been counselors? Has Child Protective Services been involved? Has there been an investigation?
No. They did not make a report, as far as I know. I mean, we haven't been contacted.
Did your husband follow through with a polygraph test?
No,
And so what's your question for us?
How do I navigate the situation? Like, they want me to come over at their house for Christmas. But we made other plans for Christmas, and they were really upset. Well, Mom, we always have Christmas together. And I said, well, it's different this year. And, well, that just upset them. And
Laurie, how does your husband feel about you going over to their house and seeing your granddaughter?
It's very hurtful for him, but he understands that my desire is to express love to them, even though I think they're nuts, and maintain a relationship in the face of, like, it's super uncomfortable because, I'm forced to leave him out to be with them. I'm between a rock and a hard spot.
And I wonder too, Lori, what does it feel like when you are in their presence? Are you able to be you? Or is it like just very false? It's not a real connection.
It's hard for me to be me because I'm not allowed to talk about him. I'm not supposed to mention his name. So a lot of, what I would talk about in my life involves my husband. I was like, I didn't go on a vacation without him. We didn't remodel the house alone.
Right.
So, Lori, as you're even trying to figure out how do I talk with my own family and how can I even be around them with my husband, I think that more needs to be done about the accusations, because I think you and your husband are both believing it's not true, didn't happen, he didn't abuse her. And yet we don't know why the young child knew these words and made this accusation. Was she coached? No, we don't know. But I think not enough has happened with professional assistance to clarify more and then to give you all guidance about what do you do next. And so my hope would be that your husband would arrange for a polygraph test to be taken on him so that he's not just giving the right words, but showing proof. I will do whatever it takes to show you I didn't do this and to prove by my actions that I'm a trustworthy man. I want to be brought back into relationship. Even if it seems so far-fetched, if he submitted to weekly counseling and to that polygraph test to build the evidence of his innocence, that makes it more likely for there to be reconciliation way down the road. But it also, I think, will settle your heart. You could get guidance from his counselor. What do I do? How do I talk with them? Because there's this enormous elephant in the room that's just not being discussed anymore, and you can't live with it that way.
Right. Well, and even to your point, Alice, that the grief, Lori, that you guys are going through is also part of that processing that you're talking about, Alice. Marc, what would you say?
And just to clarify here, that Laurie, the counseling is not going to be based on did I do this? It's the counseling is based on the situation that he's in, and that's the reason why he's going to see a counselor. And I agree with Alice. I think he submitting to a polygraph test could actually protect him in the future, because it's better to have these things done closer to the event than further from the event. And that way, if their accusations come out, even if it doesn't involve the law, but it comes out in the community, he can say, this is what I did to prove that I didn't do this. And so that may even protect him.
What do you guys think? And this is my thought, Lori. What do you guys think about Lori just saying, I'm not going to not talk about my husband? Like, if I am over at your house and I'm talking about my vacation, I mean, that's going to push the envelope a little bit. But Alice, what do you think about that?
I think I try to take a middle ground. So I might say, you don't want me to talk about him. I'm going to try to respect that as much as possible, but I can't never talk about him. So I will limit it, but it's certainly going to come out at times. But I'm going to try to abide by what you're doing. I would try to take a middle ground because the relationship is so fragile that I would want to protect it, Lori, as much as possible so you continue to have access to your family.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's so unfortunate because you don't want your granddaughter to be punished by this chaos that's going on, and so I'm glad that your husband, as hurtful as it is, he understands that at least you're getting to go over and have relationship with your granddaughter. But yeah, I mean, I do agree that there does have to be some kind of boundaries that you may have to set around this, because I mean, they're basically asking you to, when you're over there, to live as if your husband doesn't exist. And
the other part of that, the other part I have for you guys is, what do we do to help somebody who's had this experience? The daughter-in-law has a valid trigger point, right? So, this has been experienced. How do family members, encourage that they're, like in this case, Lori, your daughter-in-law, to get the help and healing that she needs? I mean, that's pretty slippery slope, but I think it could just be so helpful for her. Marc or Alice, would you suggest that Lori offer that?
I think so, because it's all right to say, gosh, isn't this situation so difficult for all of us? There's so many things we're not talking about. And I wouldn't name the husband in this part of the conversation. There are things we're not talking about and we can't talk about. I'm getting help for it because I'm really struggling to know how to act and what to say and what not to say. And I know you're hurt. And so I want to offer that I would help support you in getting counseling too, if you would let me, whether you connect her with New Life or, like we always say, you offer to pay for the first session or for some of the sessions. Our family has all been hurt and we all need healing. I want to be part of that.
Yeah, I think you also might want to ask them, hey, what's your plan for how we address this? Because we've got the rest of our lives here together, and it's unsustainable to pretend in this way. How do you think that we should address this?
This is extreme, but offering to them, if you all want to open up an investigation, we think we should. We're considering doing it ourselves. We want to be investigated because if something has happened to our granddaughter, we want the truth to be revealed. And so we're ready and willing to collaborate in that.
That's really good. Lori, I hope something that we've said is encouraging. This is tough. We're going to send her Jim's book too, Doing Life with Your Adult Children, because these are so many conversations that we have. It is always something in relationships, but it is worth doing whatever you can to make it right, to heal that process. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, listeners and callers. We appreciate your calling
Thanks
us,
for listening.
and we'll be back.
We hope
next
this
time.
program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE, but when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.